Government shutdown was lifted on Monday after President Trump signed a short-term spending bill. However, the question will be reopened 3 weeks later due to the bill's temporary nature. The government shut down after disputes across the aisle regarding DACA and the Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP. During the shutdown, a Democrat-led resolution to keep giving the military their benefits failed, leading Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to criticize Senate Democrats.
The Trump administration minimized the effect of the shutdown by keeping national park services open and having agencies draw from the governmental funds. On January 22nd, a bipartisan group of senators created the temporary spending bill reopening the government.
This regrettable episode reminded all of us that in the United States Senate, brinksmanship and hostage-taking simply do not work. The only path to meaningful progress is the hard work of crafting legislation and persuading colleagues on both sides to support it.
The president signed a continuing resolution on Monday ending the 69-hour government shutdown. But that funding only lasts until February 8th. That means that another shutdown could be on the horizon. Here to talk about what we've learned from that shutdown and what we can expect in 2 weeks is Talking Points analyst Dan Prager. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great for a new year.
So we only have a couple weeks before the government possibly shuts down again. I mean, it took 3 days of a shutdown for, both sides to get their act together and make a deal. What are we expecting this time? Do you think another shutdown is looming, or are they going to come together and make a deal?
You'd like to hope that they can come and make a deal. And for a while, it looked like things were looking up. People were agreeing on things. Bipartisanship was actually working out. But after the fact, after that happened, talks have kind of broken down. You've seen Donald Trump say, we're not going to give funding for Dreamers unless we get our funding for the wall. Chuck Schumer has said, we're not giving you that funding for the wall because you wouldn't agree with us. So there's a lot of fighting right now, and you really can't tell what's going to happen in politics. It's moving a mile a minute, so you don't really know. But right now, it looks pretty bleak.
And even then, you do have some Democrats and Republicans suggesting that Schumer was not serious about that threat of taking away the funding for the wall.
And in terms of that funding question, has DACA become a red line for Democrats when it comes to giving Trump that money?
Democrats would like to hope so, but they also said it was a red line this time around. And when the government shut down, it seemed like Democrats were getting a good amount of the blame. Now, if you looked at polls, Republicans got a little more of the blame, but it really doesn't matter national polls. It matters what those swing voters think, and it's a really powerful attack ad. You can just imagine next year saying these Democrats cared more about DACA, these illegal immigrants, than funding the military, than funding our government. And so I think the Democrats, if it comes down to another shutdown, if they say it's DACA or nothing, they could kind of get played into another trap. They're going to hope that they can negotiate enough to keep this on the table, but really Republicans seem to have that bargaining power right now.
And obviously, Dan, with both sides playing the blame game, most people would hope that the government does stay open. But a major part of this is, what sort of things can both sides of the aisle get out of these sort of deals? It's not just about keeping the government open. They're fighting for certain things. In this case, when they struck this deal, who do you think took away more, the Democrats or the Republicans? Obviously, both sides are going to claim that they won, but what do you think where does the truth lie?
It's really hard to say because we won't know until really 2018. I would say polls right now are showing the Republicans, specifically President Trump, is taking most of the blame by about 1%. Then you have Democrats in Congress. Then you have Republicans in Congress taking the least amount of blame, although that blame could have been shifted onto President Trump. I will say what we've learned is that there is room for bipartisanship. There is room to work together and make deals, and Congress isn't as divided as we say. They still can work together. But what we've also learned is that it's incredibly tough to do that, and with different factions on each side arguing pretty much everything, you don't really know what's going to happen.
Well, with February 8th on the horizon, we certainly are not going to stop talking about this.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here.